Hi, I'm Tricia Morris here at Club Scrap with the In Bloom card kit tutorial. I've got my instructions printed and ready to go, and I also have my card samples. So let's take just a second and peek at the cards we will make with this set. The first card structure just looks like a really simple, innocent card, but when you open it, it has a really neat little pop-up in the middle with the sentiment going across. So we have two horizontal cards in that style. And then in the same exact A2, when you open them vertically, we have two vertical cards as well. So really nice and relatively easy card structure to put together. Next, I'm going to challenge you a little bit with our concertina card. And this one, you can fold it flat for mailing. And when it opens, it displays like so, with this folded sentiment in the middle. And we've got this really cool ivy ribbon that we can add to really add a lot of life to these cards. There will be 4 of those. And then we have a double overlapping gatefold card with a belly band. So you'll slide the band off, and then you've got 2 flaps attached, or 2 decorative elements attached to the front flap, ribbon attached to the side here, and then your sentiment in the middle. So these are really fun cards as well. And so your kit happily includes everything you need to make all 12 of these cards, including the envelopes. So we have this beautiful vine ribbon as one of the goodies. In addition, we have 3 beautiful other ribbons included to decorate your cards. And then there's a whole bunch of these really cool sequins. We've also included some mini brads to help you attach them if you don't want to use your bookbinding glue. Either will work. The brads just add a little bit more depth to the item. And then, of course, all the panels and the card bases, the envelopes, and the cut-aparts. We're going to get started right out of the gates with there are 4 sheets of cut-aparts in this collection. We'll grab this first sheet that has all of those elements for card set A. So we'll trim these into pieces and then file them appropriately according to the diagram that we have in our printed instructions. So again, we'll grab this 8.5 by 11 sheet with the tulips in the upper left corner, and then the sentiments going along the right. And I'll divide these. I think maybe we'll trim them in this direction. So we'll place this into the trimmer with the word thank you in the upper right corner and divide this into sections. All right, essentially I have 4 piles here, and in each pile there are 4 pieces the same size, and then 1 additional that has a sentiment on it. This one says thank you, and this is a bonus sentiment, so I'm just going to put that in the 4th pocket of my accordion pocket file. This one I'm going to keep together and put in pocket A. Same for the next one. I'll keep the top 4, and then we have a happy birthday. I'll put that in the 4th pocket, and the others in pocket A. Same thing here, I'm sorry, 4th pocket, the other 4 in A, and finally, same is true for good luck and the rest of these. So there's just a set of 16 inner sentiments for those pieces. Next, identify this cut apart with all the narrow strips, and if you look at it a little, you see that we have a little jog in the artwork here. So you have to be really careful when you're trimming this. I think I'm going to start out by placing this upside down in the trimmer and just making a nice cut this way. And then I'll rotate and cut these ends off. And then rotate again to cut these into narrow strips. All of these strips will be filed into pocket B. Now I have these 4 sentiments. I'll separate them and put them in pocket A. So just hellos and happy birthdays both go in A. Next, I have all these rectangles. All of these will be in card set B. Next, we'll take this sheet, and I think we'll just go on down the line this way. So we'll begin horizontally with the text right side up and separate this into strips. Every last piece from this entire sheet is filed in pocket B. So again, I'm gathering up every little piece that I created. Here's a little scrap, but all of these pieces go in B. And then on our final sheet of cut-aparts, every last piece in this set will be filed in pocket C. Next, I want you to find a set of 4 green panels that all measure 3 by 8. And we can trim these 2 at a time horizontally. And your cuts will be at 6, 4, and 2. So 6, 4, 2. And then repeat those cuts for the remaining 2 green panels, 6, 4, and 2. Take all of these little rectangles and put them in pocket A. The other piece that we need to complete set A are the 4 yellow panels that you'll have. Just go ahead and file those away. The next I want you to find a single green panel. This needs to be trimmed to help us complete card set C. The panel measures 6 3/4 by 7. Now what's really important is that you put this into your trimmer so that the reading on your trimmer is 7, or in other words, horizontally. And our first cut will be at 5 1/4, then 3 1/2, and 1 3/4. Now you've just made 4 strips that are the same, and they all go in pocket C. Next I want you to find a 5 by 9 purple panel. We're going to trim this vertically into strips. So when you place it in your trimmer, it should be at 5 inches, should be the reading. And we'll cut it 3 3/4, 2 1/2, and 1 1/4. All 4 of these strips will be filed in pocket C for that belly band on that card. You also have some pink panels. These are 3 1/4 by 6 3/4. Those go into C. Now that we have all of those pieces filed, let's swap our trimmer for a ScorPal and do some scoring. Our first card has a pink base, and those bases measure 4 1/4 by 11. Be really careful. There's one additional sheet of pink in your kit that measures only 4 by 11. So that one does not get scored in the same way. Let's just go ahead and take these, place them horizontally into your ScorPal and score at 5 1/2. With this 65-pound coverweight paper, you do have the option of scoring 2 at a time. These 4 card bases go in pocket A. Now take these green, larger green card bases. These are 7 by 10. We're going to do 2 scores. So at 2 1/2 and 7 1/2. And take the entire card base and flip it so that the bottom goes up to the top and score at 5. Repeat that for the remaining 3 card bases. Don't file these quite yet. We still have one more thing we need to do before we can put them in pocket B. And now I want you to take the square purple panels. Now each of these has a grain direction that we want to cooperate with. So if I squeeze this from end to end, it bends a lot more easily than it does this way. So I want to place it in my ScorPal that way. It's square, so I mean, if you score it the wrong direction, it's not the end of the world. But we're going to score these at 2 1/2. And just check each one before you score it to make sure you're scoring in cooperation with that grain. This is card set B. Now you have some larger white card bases. These will be scored horizontally at 3 1/2 and 7 1/4. That will give me uneven gate folds, and that's okay. That's what we want. 3 1/2 and 7 1/4. This will go in pocket C. And you still have this one piece left. This is the 4 by 11, not the 4 1/4 by 11. This is going to become the accordion pop-up on the inside of card set A. So we're going to score this at horizontally at 2 3/4 and 8 1/4. Then let's flip it bottom to top and score at 5 1/2. Before we file, let's get our trimmer. And let's cut this into strips. We're going to cut vertically, so we're cutting right through those score lines at 3, 2, and 1. So the nice part about scoring all of this once and then cutting it after is that all 4 of our pieces have been scored how we want them, and we only had to score 3 lines 1 time instead of 3 lines 4 times. These will be used in card set A. Next, let's get out a cutting mat and a craft knife and a ruler. For our concertina card, a window has to be removed from this, and don't let it scare you. It's relatively simple. And I'm going to use my grid ruler to make a cut from the first score line to the last score line, 1 1/2 inches from the edge. So that's going to be right at the middle of our ruler, smack dab in the middle of our 3-inch ruler is 1 1/2. And I'm going to start at the first score, end at the second score. Then I'll simply rotate the card completely around 180 degrees, find 1 1/2 again, and make the same exact cut on this side. So now I have these 2 slots, and from here to here is 4 inches. Now if I rotate the card and I place my edge of my ruler at 2 1/2 from the edge, I will line up with the first score line that I made, and I'm going to connect the 2 slots I made earlier to make a slit right along that score line. Then I'll rotate and do the same thing on the other side. Notice I'm not moving the ruler or my craft knife, I'm rotating the card. So with a cut right along that score line, I now have successfully removed a 4 by 5 inch window from the middle of my concertina card. And repeat that for the 3 remaining card bases. Once all those windows have been removed, you can go ahead and file this in pocket B, and we are ready to start making our cards finally. Okay, I've got everything sorted out of my first pocket, and I'll go over with you, I think just we'll do the horizontal happy birthday card. So I'm going to set aside everything but one of these happy birthdays, and let's talk about what will be used on this card. So far we've got 4 of these little decorative panels. The tulip, it's your time to bloom, and then the other tulip, and then 4 corresponding green mats for those. We'll need the larger one of the happy birthday sentiments, a yellow panel, then the mechanism that creates the pop-up, and the yellow card base. Why don't we go ahead and fold this yellow, or I'm sorry, it's a pink card base. Pink. And that was easy. For the front of the card, I'm going to take some of the really pretty pink gross grain ribbon that we have and just snip off a length. Oh, this is going to be the horizontal one, so it's got to go this way. And I'm going to run it across the bottom portion of the card, and I've cut it just long enough that I can wrap those ends around to the back and tape them in place. Next, I'm going to install one of those sequins into this cut apart. I'll just take a piece of cork and pick out a sequin here. I'm going to go with this pretty green color. I'm just going to put it right next to the sentiment here. So I'll pierce through, and then I'll run the miniature brad right through that sequin, and then right through the hole I've made, and spread the prongs on the back. Easy as that. Now when I attach this sentiment to the card base, I'm going to be using from my stash some of these foam adhesive circles, and I might have shared these with you before, but one of the things I love about them is how easy it is to grab the tab to remove the backing instead of trying to figure out where the backing separates from the foam. And I'll just add this right to the front of my card, or my panel, and now I can nest the panel onto my card base. Very easy. Next, I'll nest these 4 white panels onto the green panels. Next, you'll need the mechanism, and because of the way we've scored it, if you always think in terms of putting the bump of the score on the inside of the fold, that'll be at the center, and then you'll fold back the free edge to the mountain fold that we made initially. And that's basically an accordion folded pop-up mechanism. Now you want to work with this so that the mechanism is shaped like the letter W. So you want the middle peak, we want that to be a mountain fold. And one of these pieces will go within each scored area. Now the key to this is being aware of where you place your adhesive. So I will put adhesive across the middle of this green panel and place it in the center of the first scored area here. Do a visual job of that. Okay, so now I have the first piece in place. The next piece I want to add is this bloom piece. The easiest way to make sure it lines up with the one that came before it is just to add your adhesive and sandwich it face down on top of the existing panel. And then fold this over onto the top of it. So now that's nice and lined up, right? It's just a nice, easy way to do this. We can do the same thing with It's Your Time too. So just adhesive across the middle, and now I can line it back up with the previous one. And then I'll take the last tulip, sandwich it face down on top of this, and close it. Okay, so now all 4 of my little panels are attached to the mechanism. Easy way to do this next step is to double check so that you have everything facing right side up to match the outside of the card. Don't lose track of that. I'm going to put adhesive just on this last section of the scored area and center that on the inside of the card so that the edge of this mechanism is aligned pretty close to the edge of the card. Just to make sure this is the top. Now I can put adhesive on the other half of the mechanism and just simply close the card over the top. When I open it, everything will pop up the way it should, and you still have a little room in the lower right corner to sign your name. Isn't that a sweet and fun card? Now what I usually do here is, now I've got a prototype. I've got one of the 4 cards made. So I'll stack that finished card on top of the others, and then I'll find the smallest envelope in the set of envelopes and take all the remaining pieces and slide them inside an envelope so that everything is right where I need it when I go to complete the rest of these cards. Next, I'll prep everything for card set B, our awesome concertina. Okay, let's review everything we need for the concertina card. We will start with our card base that has the window cut from the middle, and then we have the purple one that's been scored in half. Plus we need all of our little cut aparts. So there will be 2 long strips. One will have 2 darker tulips, one will have 1 lighter. So just grab one of each of those. And then for the sentiments, we'll make the happy birthday card and the hope your day is as special as you are. That's the companion sentiment. And then there are 4 different smaller rectangles. There will be 4 each of 4 different styles. You can choose to have them all the same on one card. It doesn't really matter, but those will be needed as well to just fill in some of the nestables of this card base. So let's prep the purple portion of our concertina card first. To get started, we will fold this in half so that the bump of the score is on the inside of the fold. And what we need to do is add a 1/2 inch slit in the top and bottom of this panel. So to do that, I will use my grid ruler and we'll find our 0 center. So here's the 0 center, and then we'll do that about 1/2 inch up from the edge. So my center is at 1 1/4 from each side, and I'll just mark a 1/2 inch up from the edge. I'm going to flip the card over and do the same thing from the other side. So here I am exactly at center. I'll mark that. If you just take a scissors, it doesn't have to be rocket science here, just make a slit that ends right at that little pencil mark you made. And if you want, you can go back and erase the pencil mark. I probably won't. So that's all that we really need to do to prep that. So when you open it, this is where the sentiment will go. Just to add a little something special to the sentiment, we'll take this really sweet gingham ribbon and cut off 2 smaller pieces, and we'll make a loop from these. Just loop that, and I'll put 1 piece in the upper left corner of this happy birthday and just tape it there. And I'll take a second piece, make a loop, and put it in the upper right corner and tape that to the back. Then we can add both of these sentiments to the inside of our purple panel. And if you want to use a ruler to get that perfectly centered, you could, or in this case, I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay, so now this is ready to go. Let's get our card ready. Following the rule, we will go ahead and put the first fold, the bump of the score, on the inside of this one. And then we'll do the same from the other angle. Make our creases there. Now in the center, we'll fold back to make a little mountain. So this is what the concertina card will look like. To begin, we can also put some adhesive on the back of these narrow strips and attach those to the card. We'll put the bolder flowers here on the right, just nest them sort of along the edge, and the same on this side. Now you have these 4 little rectangular areas, and that's where these 4 pieces will fit. So I'll just put adhesive on the back and attach those. Now something cool we can do before we do the final assembly of this card is to trim a length of this cool vine ribbon to match maybe just slightly longer than the card itself. And I'm going to take some of our famous bookbinding glue, and I'm going to run a line of it just along the edge of this strip. You can figure out which way this ribbon wants to lay. And then just starting at the bottom, you can align your cut edge with the bottom edge of the card, and then the flat surface of the ribbon onto the glue line. So sweet. It almost immediately bonds with the glue, and that's not going to go anywhere. And then you can take scissors and just trim off the end to match the card. Oh, that is so nice. Final step, and your concertina card is done. These 2 slots, the bottom and the top, are designed to slide right onto the card like this, and the same up here at the top, just on those narrow scores. So when the card stands, you look at it from the top, it looks like this. It's got all kinds of dimension going on, but you see how simple that was. Probably the most difficult part was cutting the window, and the rest of it goes together very easily. And then when the card is flat for mailing, and then here it's ready for display. Really beautiful card. We also have a really nice anniversary one in here. I love sending anniversary cards. I mean, you can have a birthday. Everyone has those, but anniversaries are a lot more work, and I think they should be celebrated. So these are 4 concertina cards. Let's move on to our overlapping gatefold. I have everything sorted from pocket C. And don't forget, you've got some bonus sentiments in the 4th pocket. And these were just designed in case you feel you have too many of one type of card. You can always substitute a sentiment for the inside with something else. So don't leave those behind, but keep them handy if you want to alternate a sentiment. All right, so here's my stack of all of my cards, and I'll just take enough to make one. And for that, you'll need a white card base that's been scored, a pink panel, a green panel, the purple belly band, and then 2 different styles of artwork on these rectangles. I'm going to make the sympathy card. So with deepest sympathy will be on the outside, and sending hugs will be on the inside. Nice, easy card to assemble. I'm going to take this piece of artwork and we'll go ahead and install another sequin because we can. So pick your favorite color and pierce a hole for that with your corkboard handy. And just push that through. Now, there aren't necessarily going to be enough sequins for all of the or enough brads for every sequin. So if you want to install additional sequins, you can, and just use our bookbinding glue directly with the sequin. And set it aside to dry. It'll work just beautifully. Okay, we can begin by folding in and burying those bumps to make our uneven gatefold here. Before we attach our pink panel, let's go ahead and take some of this gorgeous yellow satin ribbon. And let's add some of this to the pink panel, kind of to the right edge. We'll go vertical, just to add a little color. So now all the colors will be represented on this one card. After you have the ribbon attached, we can add this to the wider flap of the card base. Okay, and that's going to be the one that tucks in. Then on the outer flap here, we'll add the green panel. Okay. Now we have these two art panels. We want to be careful and aware of is that we do not put adhesive on the entire panel, but only on the half that will make contact with the green flap. So just be careful. And we'll put this on the upper half of the card so it's sort of centered left to right with a little margin at the top. And then do the same with the bottom. You don't have to attach these panels in this way. I just thought it was kind of clever because when you do that, it leaves a space around the opening that is perfect for the belly band. I have a nice, easy trick for attaching belly bands. I like to have the band seam aligned with the card seam. So you just simply align that and then wrap it around. Make your creases as you go. And you're right back on the front again. Make sure your ends line up nicely. So at this point, open from the left. And you'll put adhesive here and here. So this is the part of the band that overlaps from behind. And this is the part that ends on the seam. So adhesive here and here. And all I have to do is close it. The seam lines up with the card flap and it's really going to look nice. Now on the front, this is designed so that the With Deepest Sympathy fits right onto the band perfectly. Then when you want to open the card, just simply slide off the band, open the flaps, and you can add your sending hugs to the inside. Plenty of room for writing a nice note. Well, it's a very pretty card to wrap up our set of In Bloom greetings. If you enjoyed this art style and you want to make some scrapbook pages to match, we have a full-length video tutorial featuring our In Bloom page kit. And as a member, that kit is only $21.95. We'd love to have you be a member of both clubs. We'll see you right back here for next month's tutorial.